Hello, my name is Verdell Evans, born and raised here in Greenville, South Carolina. At the age of 6, uh, my mother, in defense of an abusive husband who had put his hands on me, shot and killed him, and was the first lady in South Carolina to receive a life sentence for murder, premeditated murder, that is. And after that, I was my grandfather took custody of me. My grandparents couldn't read or write. I had a lot of trouble in school because my mother's case was so well known and so publicized that I had a lot of problems growing up and was forced to always be on the defensive. I took up martial arts and boxing. I fought in a lot of street competitions, tough man competition, and from there, the ball was rolling. That I wasn't someone to be messed with. After not being able to function in school, I got into the street life. Started dealing drugs. Ended up in 1989, I caught a drug case and was sentenced to 15 years in state prison. But after doing 3 years, I was granted parole on my first time up. Got out, successfully completed my state parole, and continued in the street life because, when you're not able to read and write, you can't really go out and file an application and, get you a good paying job. So while continuing in the street life, I was, in 2002, after having a major stint with some city police officers and narcotics officers, I was actually set up in 2002 with a drug charge, and one of the officers claimed to have been a federal agent. In 2002, after a longest stint with a couple of city police officers who had now graduated to being narcotics officers, the major one was Mark White. Actually has always had this thing for me, from a little fist fight me and him had got into when I was a juvenile and he lost. Carried that on into my adulthood and his graduation from a city police officer to a narcotics agent. Him and several of his colleagues manufactured a drug case against me using one officer by the name of Adam Brazizi, claiming that he was an ATF agent, and come to find out that he had never even worked as a federal officer. After my third trial, and even before the third trial, after the second trial, the government, which was the prosecutor Isaac Johnson, Isaac Johnson stood up in the courts requesting a change of venue, and in his testimony, he testified that due to my notoriety here in the city of Greenville, there was no way that the government could get a fair trial. And Judge Seymour actually granted them, based on that statement, actually granted them a change of venue and moved the case from out of Greenville to somewhere back up in behind Gaffney, where I was found guilty in 45 minutes and sentenced to 360 months to life in federal prison for a drug charge with the amount of 18 grams. They say 18 grams of crack cocaine. It was easy for them to manufacture this case because, Mark White knew that I couldn't read or write. So it was easy to manufacture the case. Not having enough money to pay a good attorney to fight on my behalf, so I ended up being sentenced. But that sentence brought out the very best in me. Immediately upon my conviction, I cut off all ties with my family members and friends, started focusing on myself. And once I got to my first institution, I enrolled in school, applied myself 100%, and after failing a couple of tests, even the preschool test, where it was actually determined, and I have the paperwork to prove it, that at the age of 33, I had the educational background of a first grader. And I was so embarrassed by it that I made it my business to, turn that around. That was being 33 years old and told that I had the faculties of a first grader motivated me, to learn everything I could possibly learn and to spend all of my time in school getting my education. And in 2014, after failing the pre-GED test 5 times and the GED test 3 times, I was able to graduate with my GED in 2014, and that was one of the happiest, most joyful days of my entire life. I only wish that my grandparents could have been here to see it, because though they couldn't read or write, they always pressed on that education was the key. All of my grandparents' children, my 3 uncles, after graduating with my GED, that was one of the most joyful, most heartfelt days of my life. I only wish that my grandparents could have been, to here to see that or to experience that moment, because they was always advocating how important the education was, to the point that their 6 children, my mother and her 2 sisters, along with 3 brothers, all graduated from high school, getting their GED, and my mother even went off to college and was studying to become a doctor, prior to the incident that led to her sentence and conviction. So just knowing that, I had accomplished that such a healthy milestone in my life was something that, I could never find the words for. But, hey, and this is in addition to how hard it is to be in prison, how hard it is to do time in federal prison, because, it's not like you are always in your own particular state And a lot of these states are beefing with each other. A lot of these states have gang members. And, you know, doing federal time is a lot harder than doing state time, because at least in the state prison, you know, you're around individuals from your state. But when you're in federal prison, you're around multiple states of inmates, you know, who are all fighting over territory, you know, trying to show that they are more dominant on the compound than all the other states or all the other gang members. So being in federal prison was extremely hard, but I never allowed any of the challenges I endured to curtail my determination to get my education. After I was able to read and write, I think it was the second, after failing my second pre-GED test, I wrote President Obama and Vice President Joe Biden requesting that they take a look at my case, and also asked that the Office of Internal Affairs and the Justice Department investigate the officers in my case. After they received my certified letter to them, an investigation was conducted, and all 5 of the officers involved in my case, all 5 of them was terminated, 3 of them were convicted, and it was determined that the officer, Adam Brazzi, who claimed to be a federal officer, which was the reason why my case went federal, was never a federal officer, had never even worked for a federal agency, and that he was only a Bronx police officer, you know. And actually he was my entire case was centered around me traveling from Greenville, South Carolina to Brooklyn, New York, where Adam Brazzi was only supposed to get on the airplane behind me, and New York State officers were supposed to make the arrest for trafficking or conspiracy to trafficking. But Mark White, being the head of the narcotics agents here in Greenville, decided that he was going to jump the gun and have, you know, make the arrest here in Greenville and get the credit for it. So they wanted Adam Brazzi to fake his credentials and impersonate a federal officer so that the case would go federal here in South Carolina. And it did. And after, I say, you know, I received, you know, even in all of the court documents, the 18 grams of crack that they said that I threw, it was determined from the fingerprint analysis that I never even had the bag, that none of my prints or ladings or texture was even on the bag. Only the officers' fingerprints and skin latings was on that bag. And all of this is in the paperwork. But still and yet, I was sentenced to 360 to life sentence. And had I not filed had I not learned to read and write and pursue uh, my complaint through the Justice Department and the Office of Internal Affairs, I would still probably be in prison today. And the sad part about it is, like I say, I wrote that letter to President Obama and Vice President Joe Biden, and never even received a response from the White House. But I did receive a response from the Justice Department advising me that they was conducting their investigation, which led to those 5 officers being terminated and convicted. Moving forward, you know, well, backing up a little about how rough prison is, how rough the federal prison is. You know, while I was in federal prison, after learning to read and write, and familiarizing myself with the policy and procedures of the Federal Bureau of Prisons, you know, I started checking and questioning a lot of the tactics that was used by the federal administrators of the prisons. And anytime that I was challenging the administration on violation of the constitutional rights of the inmates or violating their own policy and procedures, I was immediately placed in transit to be transferred to another federal prison. And this was just to keep the complaints, this was just to keep the complaints quiet. Because one thing about the Federal Bureau of Prisons, if you file a complaint at that prison, that complaint is only good as long as you're still there. But the minute you are transferred from that prison, that complaint has no more well, actually, it becomes non void. They don't have to respond. The regional officers don't. The regional offices don't have to respond to it, and you can't file it to the next level. So out of 19 years in federal prison, I was sent and transferred to 15 different prisons, and the majority of the time it was always based on me challenging the prison's violations of their own policy and procedures and the constitutional rights of prisoners. When you transfer it like that, you know, from yard to yard, you become well known. Because every institution I went to, there was always somebody there that knew me on another compound. So in 2009, I was transferred to Victorville, California, to one of the most violent, most gang-riddled prisons in the Bureau. And while I was there for 3 years, and I never saw the lockup there. Never received an incident report. That was the only prison that I've been to that I never received an incident report from, and the only one that I was sent to that I was actually transferred based on good behavior, you know. So, but while I was there, the West Coast gang members, the Black Hands, the Pisces, the Black Hand, Pisces, the Mexican Mafia, the good gracious, I forget those names. But anyway, those inmates came to me, after observing me on the compound for a while, uh, and knowing that I had the ability to mobilize, you know, or to, curtail what they had already been planning against the black gang members there, the Crips and the Bloods. Uh, these When I first got to Victorville, uh, the whole entire East Coast was considered one group. That was from Maine all the way down to the boot of Texas. Uh, all of us was forced to band together or, suffer the consequences of trying to, do it on your own. Me, myself, I like to do things on my own because I can hold my own weight. I ain't got to worry about nobody crossing me or, stabbing me in the back. So there was only one time, it was only one meal that I ever attended in the prison dining hall, and that was every Wednesday. We had hamburger and French fries because I love the French fries. I don't eat the beef. So I happened to go in, and a lot of the guys knew me from other institutions. When they saw me come in the dining hall, which was extremely segregated, the entire East Coast only had 8 seats in the dining hall, which is 2 tables. When they saw me come in, inmates would just jump up and call me to the table to have a seat while they stand up and eat their meals. That didn't set right with me. And the reason why is because there was an entire row of tables that remained empty because it was being controlled by the gang members. I mean, this whole entire row, no one sat at these tables or even dared to sit at these tables. That entire row of tables was really East Coast tables, but because the gang members ran the institution, nobody wanted to. Everybody that was there from the East Coast was like, man, I'm just trying to do my 18 to 24 months clear conduct and get transferred back close to home. Well, like I say, seeing all those tables empty and individuals standing up eating in the dining hall just didn't set right with me. Particularly, an individual's calling me to come sit at the table and then get up so that I could sit down. And I'm not even a gang member. I have no affiliation. I claim no affiliation. I was just one man doing my own thing, working on my case, trying to get home to my family, and trying to stay clear conduct myself while watching the administration, checking them and the fact that they was violating all the policy and procedures and allowing things to take place that shouldn't have been. So one Wednesday I go into the dining hall, still looking at this whole entire row of empty tables. A couple of guys jumped up. Hey V, come on, man. I said, nah, go ahead and sit down and eat your food. I got a seat. So I went and sat at that whole entire empty row of tables. I went over and sat down, started eating my French fries, and the assistant warden and the captain came over and asked me what I was doing. I said, what you mean, what am I doing? I'm enjoying my lunch. He said, well, why are you sitting over here? I said, because all the other tables are full. These are the only ones that have empty seats. That's why I'm sitting over here. Oh, I see you. And then the AW said, oh, I see you gonna be a problem.
All right, hold on. Come on in, Dave.
Can I do anything with this out?
Maybe. I don't know. Just make sure you're still recording and stuff.
Copy that.
Real quick. Still going good?
Yep.
All right. You want me to go ahead and continue? You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just pick up with when the officers came back over to your table.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah. When I had a seat at the table, the captain and the assistant warden came over and asked me what was I doing. I looked at him real strange and I said, what do you mean, what am I doing? I'm sitting here eating, I'm enjoying my lunch. He said, well, why are you sitting over here? I said, because as you can see, these are the only tables that are empty. Everybody, all the other tables are full and those other guys are already standing up eating their lunch and I'm not gonna stand up and eat mine. So the AW said, okay, I see what this is. You gonna be a problem. I said, well, whatever it is, I'm gonna sit here until I finish my tray. And they both just walked off. A couple of days later, the Serranos and all of the other Spanish gang members saw me coming out of education doing the 10-minute move, and everybody knows that when the administration calls a 10-minute move, that means 10 minutes. You have 10 minutes to get from your housing unit to rec, education, or wherever you're going, medical, to work. But in them 10 minutes, when they say 10 minutes, the yard is closed, 10-minute move has expired, you better be where you're supposed to be. So as I'm coming out of education on the 10-minute move, all of the Spanish gang members were standing on the compound. As I approached them with caution, because I didn't know what was going on, several of them asked if they could speak with me. I granted them, the opportunity to voice their concerns or opinions or, state whatever their business were. And they all agreed that if I became the shot caller for the entire East Coast, and the shot caller means that no one can do anything without my say-so. That's what the shot caller in federal prison means. You call the shots. You dictate everything that the individuals under you are doing. So I didn't want that title, but it came with perks. Perks that I know that everyone needed and would dispel a lot of tension on the compound. Now remind you, the 10-minute move has expired. These Spanish gang members was able to walk me to each housing unit after advising me that if I became the shot caller, this is what they would give us. Prior to that, the entire East Coast only had one telephone in each housing unit. And you had to stand in a long chow line just to use the telephone. We only had one computer in each housing unit. We only had one shower in each housing unit. 2 tables in the dining hall. And if you wanted to work out in recreation, there was very limited space where you could actually work out in. And technically you couldn't even work out in recreation because the space was so limited that it didn't make no sense to try and work out. You might as well try to work out in your cell. So they like I say, they made it that being the shot caller came with some perks that I knew would dispel a lot of tension on the compound. So these Spanish gang members walked me to each housing unit, and mind you, there are 10 TVs in each housing unit, but the entire East Coast didn't have one. So when we walked into the housing unit, they said, "Man, if you become the shot caller, the East Coast can have these 2 TVs. Y'all can have these 2 computers, these 2 telephones, these 2 showers." And then we walked from the housing unit across the compound. Mind you, the 10-minute move has been expired. Probably more than 30 minutes. And we was able to walk across the compound, and they showed me, they said, "Look, if you become the shot caller, y'all get this entire row of tables plus the row that no one was ever sitting at," which is one of the rows that I sat at when the captain and the assistant warden asked me what I was doing. So with these requests, there was no way, especially being that I didn't know how long I was going to be at this institution, and knowing that I had a lot of influence with a lot of guys from the East Coast, I pulled them together and I said, "Look, man, this is what these Spanish gang members are saying. If I become the shot caller for the entire East Coast, these are the things that they're gonna allow us to have." And all of these guys that was actually shot callers for their own states agreed. "Man, look, V man, take the position, man." Even though I didn't want to, the fact that these guys had enough respect for me, and we had always had a pretty good camaraderie at other institutions, I went on and accepted it. Became the shot caller for the entire East Coast. And mind you, I still didn't even know that there was a war brewing between the West Coast gang members. After it was confirmed that I was the shot caller for the entire East Coast, there started to be a lot of tension between the black gang members and the Spanish gang members. And I informed a lot of the black gang members from the East Coast that, hey, under no circumstances, regardless of what's going on out here, if you get involved in it, we're gonna kick your ass to sleep. And mind you, I mean, like I say, another one of the reasons that Victorville was so dangerous and such one of the most violent institutions is because there are weapons that can be used that you don't even have to manufacture. There are scorpions walking around on the compound, baby rattlesnakes on the compound, tarantulas, I mean very poisonous tarantulas. So, and you know, a lot of the Hispanics, they're outdoorsmen. You know, they love they love nature. Man, they was able to catch these, you know, they was housing these species as pets. And when the violent uprising between the black and Hispanic gang members took off, man, I saw guys climbing up into that razor wire on that 5,000 volt fence. You understand? Rather than fighting these gang members. these Spanish gang members had cut the tails off these scorpions, and all they don't even need to poke you with it. All they need to do is touch you with it. That stinger, once it break their skin, man, within minutes, if you can't get no medical attention, man, you dead. They was sticking guys with these scorpion tails. They was taking these baby rattlesnakes and they was throwing them on them. Man, they were throwing these tarantulas. I mean, well, actually, I don't know if they were throwing the tarantulas, but if it took off in the housing units, they was just letting these spiders run loose into these guys' sails. And I'm talking about, man, we probably could go back and get the history on that. Do some research and you'll see for yourself, man, how violent that race riot was.
Did you have to keep up with what was going on at other penitentiaries to call different shots that, I mean, were miles and miles away?
No, sir. Didn't have to. Anytime you're a shot caller, it's only for that one institution, that particular institution that you was at. Like I say, that was the only time that I've ever been asked to be a shot caller. That was the only time that I ever even, stood up and, took the wheel and agreed to be one. After leaving Victorville, when I was, after 3 years of being on that compound, like I say, I never even I don't even know what they lockup even looked like. But every other institution I've been to, I've been in the SHU, transferred from the SHU due to an incident. For 3 years that I was out there, the East Coast inmates never had a situation with any of the West Coast inmates. For the whole 3 years I was out there. After that riot, between the Hispanics and the black gang members, the black gang members came to me and was trying to build an alliance so that if a riot like that was to happen again, they would have the assistance of the East Coast. I told them, nah, you ain't got nothing coming from us. When we came out here, you didn't welcome us out here. You didn't offer us anything. Everything we have, we received from the Hispanics. You accused the black Crips and Bloods from the East Coast and the South as being fakes and phonies, copycats and wannabes, and now all of a sudden you done got your ass whooped. Now you want to build an alliance with the East Coast. No, sir. This is a West Coast thing. Y'all gonna have to handle West Coast business the way y'all supposed to. It ain't got nothing to do with us. And from there, man, we have no problems, none whatsoever. None of the East Coast guys was ever caught up in any beefs between other gang members. We didn't have to walk around on the compound with no weapons, even though, it's almost mandatory that you have something to defend yourself with whenever it go down. But we didn't have to worry about any of that. And, even the administration took notice that, hey, man, we got to start running this thing by the book now. Because the way this guy has, and I'm talking about myself, the way this guy has aligned himself with all of these other inmates, individuals he don't know and individuals he do know from both coasts, whites and Hispanics. Man, there's no way we can continue to run this institution the way we've been allowing it to run on its own. are violating these guys' constitutional rights. Now, mind you, the gang still ran the institution. They still did their thing. But the administration stayed completely out of the way. And after that one riot, man, it was so peaceful around there, man, that it was almost like you could go out the fence and go home and come back if you wanted to. But man, that's how rough it is in federal prison, especially the Midwest and the West Coast. A lot of the other coasts, man, things are rough at times, but the majority of the time, everybody's getting along and sharing the amenities that the Bureau of Prisons has allowed us to have. So, but I don't even know. I say the only reason why it took me is because, well, I ain't gonna say it took me. The only reason why they came and asked me is because when I took the initiative, and you remember how we used to play that I dare you,
Yeah.
and draw the line. When I took the initiative and stepped across that line and sat down at that table, yeah. And the assistant warden and the captain came over and asked me what I was doing, and I wasn't hauled off to lock up right then and there. The inmate population took notice that, hey, okay, if the administration is not gonna mess with him, then this. I mean, like I say, I didn't even know what was brewing between the black and Hispanic inmates on the West Coast. And one of the reasons why they chose me is because they felt like I had an open understanding and line of communication with all the other shot callers, that when the riot went down, it wouldn't be a great big old black versus Hispanic riot. It was just gonna be, the blacks and Hispanics from the East Coast, because the blacks and whites from the West Coast, the blacks and whites from the East Coast outnumbered them anyway. I always made it my business. Like I say, when I was first sentenced, I made it my business to cut off communication with my family members and friends from the streets. I never wanted to actually, get into, befriend a whole lot of different people in prison, because I was fighting my own battles. And then, in prison, federal prison that is, because it's a whole lot different than state. You run into a lot of guys that once they know that you're doing something that they can benefit from, then they try to use you, to their advantage. And I have zero tolerance to, any form of disrespect. So to keep myself focused on what I was doing, in terms of getting my education and bringing attention to my case, I had to stay focused on that 100%. I couldn't even, I wasn't out there on the yard mingling and communicating with guys. When they saw me heading to education early in the morning, to recall at 3 o'clock, and after the recall count, they saw me headed to recreation, to get my workout in. And I never used drugs or alcohol, you know, in my life. And a lot of them guys, man, they used all types of substances to help them, you know, deal with the the environment. You know, some guys couldn't even function daily without, you know, being high or intoxicated some kind of way. You know, because I mean, it's hell, man, being in prison, and then on top of that, being so far away from home. You know, and everything you do, you got to pay for it. You know, if you want to send an email, you got to pay for it. If you want to make a phone call, you got to pay for it. Going to prison, totally ignorant and uneducated. Man, I wanted to learn everything that they had available because I wanted to make sure that once I was free, you know, I have something to fall back on. I have something to stand on, not fall back on, something to stand on and move forward. And as you can see
That's
from
a
the
lot.
paperwork,
What was your favorite class?
my favorite class was actually FEMA. That was my favorite class. I mean, because we had a chance to get our FEMA certification and graduate, and I just saw my graduation, me in my graduation gown. My youngest sister, I was at her house yesterday because she had just had surgery. I was like, I kept looking at this picture. I said, man. And I got up and I looked at it close. I said, oh man, she's the only person that actually has that picture. And I've actually been offered a position with FEMA, $26 an hour. But my probation officer, you know, because FEMA, we're going to be doing emergency relief management and, you know, heading to disaster areas. So they won't allow me to travel. And like I told them yesterday at the advocacy meeting, I said, man, this was the fact that all of these agencies have said no, that I'm not entitled to any assistance as an ex-felon returning back to society. I said that's not just a jug at me. That's disrespecting the president of the United States because I received it from President Trump and nobody else. I don't even know. And as a matter of fact, I was setting up the attorney that assisted me all the way up until my day of release. I'm actually waiting on her to call me back because I want to know why. Lady asked me today, have I received a full pardon? Or did she ask, was it a pardon? No, she asked, was my record had my record been expunged? I said, no, I'm waiting to communicate with the attorneys now to file the expungement of my record, the proper procedures, because she wanted to hire me for a job, and she was asking me about my background, and that's how that conversation came about. You know, Biden, he campaigned, you know, because President Trump was going to do a Second Step Act, which was going to free up a whole lot of other inmates. President Biden campaigned that if he was elected, he would improve President Trump's Second Step Act and make it better. But since he's been in office, no one, since I've been home, no one has said not one word about Joe Biden's campaign promise for the Second Step Act. And him and Obama, 8 years in office, they only released less than, just over 2,300 inmates. President Trump's 4 years in office, and he's released almost 20,000. And Joe Biden was the godfather of the Get Tough on Crime legislation that led to those the three-strike law and the Career Offenders Act. So that one incident. But this guy called me out. He was the shot caller for Florida. I had just gotten transferred from Victorville to South Carolina. First time being home in the home state, my whole bid. And I just knew that this was gonna be great. As soon as I got to Estelle, I called my sisters up. We started preparing plans for visitation. And this one guy who was really a crumball out there on the West Coast when I was out there, but yet they made him a shot caller, one of the shot callers, you know, because he had his nickname was Knife, you know, because he always carried one, and you know what and you know was going to use it at any cost. You know, and he had a lot of time also, so he wasn't never looking to really go home anyway. So, but every day this guy would watch me work out. And one day, I was in the housing unit. We was in the same unit. I had just prepared my food to sit down and watch the local news and the world news, because they're the only shows I watch, other than, you know, maybe UFC on the weekends, some boxing matches, but TV wise, the only thing I'm gonna watch is the 6 o'clock local news, 6:30 world news, and I'm gone. You know, if 60 minutes or 48 hours come on, I catch those. But other than that, I don't even watch no TV. So I had just finished preparing my meal and was just walked over, sit down in my chair, getting ready to, waiting on the 6 o'clock world news to come on. And that guy, Knife, walked up to me and said, "Man, I'm trying to see you." And I didn't even hesitate, man. I'm talking about, I was up so fast that, you know, I normally take my radio and clamp it to my chair, got my headphones on. Man, I was up so fast, man. Everything was just dragging, just on the floor. We went to the mob closet, and all of the guys from South Carolina was mad at me. And then, matter of fact, Estelle is in South Carolina, but it's considered a Florida prison because the compound holds 1,300 inmates, but it's 700 of them just from the state of Florida alone. The other numbers make up all of the other states of inmates there, but it was only like maybe 180 guys from the whole state of South Carolina there on that compound. So, and being that I like to take care of my own business, you know, because first thing is, guys, you know, you get caught up, and all those guys are from South Carolina now. They got caught up in that situation with me, you know, now they be blaming me, man, you know, blaming me for the transfer, because we gonna get transferred. When you get into a fight like that, you know, there's no staying on the compound. You got to go. So they claimed that they was upset because I went and fought this guy without having somebody with me. And while I was dusting him off, two of his partners that he had with him stabbed me in the back, the leg, and the side, and you know, because they just couldn't see him going down like that. And plus, he, like I say, he was one of the shot callers for the Florida Car. Had one international menu. That's what they call it, an international menu.
Tacos?
They had the tacos on Tuesday. Catered to the Spanish population. Yes, you do feel it and you do know it. Before it became privatized, all of the jobs you could literally make a living working the most mundane job in the prison system. Just picking up trash on the compound, which ain't that much because they make sure them compounds stay clean. You could literally make a little over up to or a little over $100 a month. But as soon as they privatized it, man, they made it where you couldn't make but $25 a month. The unicorns, guys was making minimum wage. The old minimum wage at $3.15 an hour. Now, it's a set. It's like $1.27, or it's anywhere between $1.27, $1.17, and $1.27 to work a job now in the corporations, the unicorns. And a lot of the unicorns make materials for the military.
Really?
And that's crazy. You got inmates making those the military boots, their uniforms. Yeah, they make all that.
I would have a sense of pride in that if that's what I was doing. I think that would be pretty cool. The
even the vests.
like the bulletproof ones.
Yeah. Psychology makes a whole lot of money. The psychologists on those compounds, making anywhere between $75,000 and $125,000 a year, just to sit in the office and do nothing, or prescribe you some kind of medication. In terms of having classes where guys can learn to control their impulse, work on their anger management, those classes, I had to put myself in a position where I actually knew the psychologist in order to get in those classes myself, because being that everything that I had to go through, and I have a copy of my SLED report, which is I was blown away. I didn't even know I had all of those criminal charges on the street, but
That's funny.
yeah.
Like I did what?
Yeah, exactly. And but if I hadn't have made the determination to get my education and remain focused, and all of those classes would be offenses. The majority of those classes would have been offenses, because they only allow you to attend these classes if they are attached to you. If they see the worth in you. They don't go out and say, and they're supposed to. They're supposed to advocate in the prisons, how important it is for you to take these classes. And, you're supposed to also receive benefits and perks for taking these classes. You don't do none of that. Three of them were convicted. After I was able to write the Justice Department and the Office of Internal Affairs about those officers, they sent me a letter back within 30. They sent me a response back in 30 days advising me that they was that they would be investigating the case. And within I want to say 8 months to a year, all 5 of them had been terminated. And
why weren't you out?
no, they're saying that it was something I said at the 3rd trial that led to my conviction, and not
The charge?
the actual charge. It was something that I said that led to that led to the conviction and the reason why I couldn't get the time off. But I have full copies of my transcripts of all three trials, and you know, my argument in the letter was, well, can you at least advise me on what it is I may have said or where it's located in the transcript, because I've read the complete transcript and there's nothing in there that I said that led to my own conviction, especially in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, when I started challenging, after I was able to read and write and able to navigate the law library terminal, I was able to see there's only 2 ways that the federal government can request a change of venue in a federal case. One, that there's one was something compromised. The conflict of interest was one, and public notoriety.
Okay.
Like I told Judge Seymour at the chain of venue hearing, none of these people on these juries know me. They know nothing about me, unless they was in the streets aware of these of me and these different communities in Greenville. They don't know me. They don't know nothing about me. So there's nowhere in the world that the government can stand on the argument that based on my notoriety they can't get a fair trial or a conviction here in the city of Greenville.
I wonder if they're still looking, or if they can look into that, because...
And I was just looking at the Old Mills apartment. I was wondering where that, I saw that back years ago in the news. I was like, darn. And to come home now and to see how nice and gated it is, like, man. Well, they was very adamant. Mr. Evans, here's your bus ticket. You make sure that you're on that bus. Do not get off that bus unless there's a layover. That was from Pennsylvania to South Carolina. Every time we stopped, security was all over me. It's like they recalled ahead of each one of those stops. And they was looking for any reason to incarcerate me. I'm talking about I was so timid that I wouldn't even, I wouldn't even get out the bus to use the restroom. I was using the restroom on the bus. I didn't even want to get off the bus to stretch my legs. And they made sure at each stop, and that bus ride was a day and a half. From Pennsylvania to South Carolina. A couple of layovers, because I had to get off one bus and wait for the other one to come on and transfer. I mean, security was all over me. I mean, when I came off the bus, they wanted to see. And I kept this card. They wanted to see that. That was my ID, and they put my little money on the card. They wanted to see it and identify me by it. On every stop. Not at all.
So it was like, surprise.
Man, they had just served lunch. Burgers that day. I had a turkey burger, and I was just making my burger, and the counselor came and knocked on the door and said, "Hey, Evans." I looked back over my shoulder. He said, "Man, if you trying to go home today, man, I need an address." I said, "Man, get the fuck away from the door. Don't play with me." And the whole institution is locked down for COVID. He opened the door. When he popped that door, I knew it was something that this was something different. So I got up. He said, "No, man, I'm dead serious. If you're trying to go home today, I need an address." I said, "Man, how the fuck am I gonna give you an address? I just got here." I said, "The only way I can give you an address, I need to get down there to that computer and get it off the computer." He said, "Well, the door is open. Take care of your business." And I took off running down there, man. Matter of fact, they wouldn't even, while we was on lockdown, they wouldn't allow us to have pen, paper, stamps. They didn't want us communicating with anyone. We wasn't allowed to have any writing materials at all. So only thing we was allowed to get was mail coming in. But I couldn't get no mail coming in because, I had just got down from Colorado. So I didn't even know the address. My family I didn't even know I was going to Canaan, which is in Joe Biden's backyard, Scranton, Pennsylvania. Man, I ran down there and got the information off the computer, my sister's address off of there, and gave it to him. He said, "Well, I'll be back in 2 hours with your bus ticket. Make sure you're ready." 2 hours they was back, and I was the only person being transported by van from the prison to the bus station. I mean, I could only assume that it was the paperwork, the complaint that was left over with the Justice Department, the Office of Internal Affairs, and the fact that I wrote this letter to President Obama. So it's, well, just leave it and let the law, let the other administration. I don't know. But I never reached out to him. That's for sure. Well, I actually haven't even. Actually, I never even filed a civil action. Because I really needed to actually. A friend of mine named Truesdale. And Truesdale been in 30-something, he's been in 30-something years, man, and this man had deserved his freedom. I mean, he never even had a shot, he probably haven't had an incident report in 20-something years. But me and him, he was trying to help me find some more, because he was going to help me with the civil action, but we just needed to. We kept digging into my transcript trying to find out what statement are you saying that what statement are you saying that I made that led to my conviction? And we haven't been able to find it. But still, what does that have to do with the beginning of the charge? And the fact that they clearly stated that none of my skin latents or prints was on the bag. Now this is their own laboratory that's stating that no prints or skin latents connected to Mr. Evans was on the bag. Oh, Margaret Seymour, first black female district court judge.
Still around?
I don't know. Margaret B. Seymour. I definitely have hope. I hope that it exists because I hear today they have some new district court, federal district court judges here in Greenville, but you know, until individuals are tired of going along to get along and playing both sides of the fence, you know, I don't see it happening, because somebody's always got dirt on somebody else in order to get them to play along with the games that they're pushing on the system. You know, I was already blinded by. I had allowed my handicap. Well, let's say I had allowed the hustling game to become the I can't even find the word, but I allowed it to help me overlook my handicap of not being able to read and write. I was already making money. I was already doing the things that I thought was gonna be beneficial.
Did you feel fake? Perpetrating?
No, I didn't, because I had the attitude, well, I ain't using. Somebody got they're the ones using it. Somebody got to provide it, so it might as well be me. I'm not using, I'm not smoking, I'm not clubbing, I know what time to go home, I know what time to get up in the morning to get my day started. I'm taking care of my kids, and I was just I had a real selfish low down mentality.
No, we probably need that too.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then we can end it up.
Definitely. That is definitely my president.
Golly dang, that's awesome.
Back in 1988, my son was about 8 months old, and on Green Avenue, there was this retired police officer who had a little corner burger stand right there in the corner of the old Green Avenue washerette. And he hated people to come across that parking lot. He wanted you to walk straight down the sidewalk and then turn on the other sidewalk. he didn't want nobody cutting across the parking lot. And he'd always said something to me about it, but I never paid him any attention, because he was an older man, and I was taught to respect my elders by just being quiet and keep it moving. So, but this one day here, I come down through there from my grandparents' house. I had my son for the weekend, and it was in the summertime. And his mom was meeting me on Sullivan Street to grab him. His mom and his grandmother, because they was in his grandmother's car. So we tucked him in and put him in his baby seat, buckled him down, and they was on their way. I was on my way back up to my grandmother's. Well, I don't know if I was going to my grandmother's, but I was on my way back up to Anderson Road. And a friend of mine stopped me. He was asking me a couple of questions, and all of a sudden he said, "V, run!" No, and when I turned around, it was that guy, And no, matter of fact, the first when my partner said, "V, run," before I could even, because I was gonna look over my shoulder, he fired the shot. The bullet hit me in the shoulder, and then ricocheted up into my jaw, and it felt like it broke my neck because it snapped my head back so hard. But I was so, I was really into my fight stance. Back then I was, heavy in on the weights, so I was in real great shape. And after it snapped me, and I went down to the ground. I looked up. I got back up. I said, "Motherfucker, you shot me!" And I reached and I grabbed him, and I grabbed him with so much force and strength that he started screaming and he started howling. And he shot me again in the side, and then the left leg. And so now I'm trying to wrestle. Now I'm taking the gun from him, but it's only a 6-shot 38 revolver, police issue. So I get the gun from him, and I'm clicking it the whole time because I'm trying to blow his head off, but it's empty. All you can hear is the click, 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 click. And by then, so many people was out there. They was like, "Come over here," And then now I'm looking at everybody in slow motion, because now the blood flow, the nauseousness, all that is setting in now, because I done lost so much blood, and everybody was just come over here, and I'm steady trying to walk to him, so I just have a seat on the sidewalk, and everybody was just telling me to stay still, because the ambulance was on the way. And when the ambulance finally got there, I was already unconscious by the time we got to the hospital. My father was unconscious before the paramedics even arrived. But after that, I was always looking for this guy. Nothing. All I knew his name was Papa Jack. That was his name. That was a street name, because that was the name of his little old burger stand or whatever it was, little shop. So I was always looking for this guy, Papa Jack. And one day I was out on my bicycle, strolling through the neighborhood, and this young lady stopped me. And she's like, come here. And I stopped. And she introduced herself to me. And she asked me to come into the house. You know, I'm thinking it's something more than that. I'm thinking that, this, you know, and she was a nice looking young lady, and she was my age. And we walked through the house, and we got to the room where there was an older guy laying in the bed. And he was bedridden. And she said, you know who that is? I said, nah. She said, that's my father. I said, who is that? She said, that's Papa Jack. And when she said that, man, I just disappeared. Because I just disappeared because I know what I wanted to do to him. But to see him in that state, I just disappeared. And, I don't even think she even, I disappeared so fast, she didn't even know I had left the room or the house. Got on my bike and left. And she saw me later on, and she said, I just wanted to thank you for not killing my father. Because, it was widely known that if I ever caught him, that's what I was going to do. I had made it known in the streets that, man, I'm going to kill that man as soon as I catch him. But,
did he just snap?
Huh?
Did he just snap when he shot you?
Like I said, he was a retired police officer. Nah, he didn't just snap. Because like I said, he had been making little statements about me cutting across that parking lot. And I mean, this is a parking lot. You have a laundromat here. You have a barber shop here. His shop here on the corner. And right here is the laundromat. But he didn't want nobody cutting across that parking lot where he can look out his door and see you. So he didn't just snap. He got away with it. I mean, he didn't get any time or anything. I mean, they literally played it as if though, I had done something that caused him to react in the way that he did.
The second story I've heard like that.
So.
All right.
When the night you were arrested, let's talk about, or whenever the event, when you actually got arrested to do the big time. Okay. How'd that go down, the arrest? And I think we can stop at that, I think.
Okay. On August the 22nd, 2002, me and my brother had already, caught a lot of flack, because, guys was, one thing I hated about the hustling game was these guys out in the streets robbing individuals, carjacking, home invading, and all this old stuff. I hated that. You gonna wait till this man make his money and then you just gonna rob him when technically, you can do it, you come out better, going out there and hustle yourself, because if you don't kill him, you got to worry about the backlash and the revenge. So the word was going around that me and my brother was robbing guys or home invading guys, and that was the fakest, most lying statement I had ever heard. So my brother was already in New York, so he called. He said, "Man, come on out and dine there, man, for the people knock your head off." I said, "All right, well, give me a plane ticket and I'll be on up." So he called me and told me he had the plane. He had already reserved the ticket. All I needed to do is just go up to GSP and show my ID and board the plane. How they knew all of this was supposed to happen that day was my communication with another guy who claimed who was robbed by some other guys, but them guys told him that me and my brother robbed them.
Yeah.
So his whole thing was, well, yeah, what it was, he had given them a bunch of drugs, and they told him that me and my brother robbed him, but which they was robbing because they knew that he wasn't gonna say anything to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they was actually robbing him. They robbed him themselves, but put the blame on us. So, and I was talking to him that day. I hadn't left him 15 minutes. I hadn't, and he the only person that knew that I was on my way to New York, on my way to the airport that day. 15 minutes after I left him, that's, on my way to pick up my nephew here in Greer to take me to the airport and keep my truck. Police officers, Mark White and his narcotics crew ran down on me. And that's how this entire case started. And Mark White said that, what, if it hadn't been for a close friend of yours, we would have never got this close to you.
Where were you arrested? At the airport, or were you on the way?
On the way to the airport. Matter of fact, I was arrested right here. Damn, that's crazy.
That's awesome.
This used to be the Super 8 Hotel.
Yes, sir.
This is where I was arrested at.
This
Right
is
here.
happening. This is crazy.
On my way to the airport, because I was coming up through here, going to Grill to pick up my nephew. And I was pulled over right here at the Super 8 Hotel. That's why I was arrested at. Super 8 Hotel.
That's awesome.
That's why I say I don't even remember this place being here.
Yeah. That is
This
so
used to be the Super 8.
nuts.
Wow.
Yeah, as my wife was like, I love the room, I like the colors, and so this is where I got bed bugs 2 years ago. Literally.
This is perfect.
That is so awesome, man. I love that. I love that the end of the interview is like, wait, where am I?
Oh,
son of a
where I
bitch!
That's it for. I think we just. Oh.
Oh yes, whatever you'd like to. Yeah.
All praise is due to the Most High, the Creator of all women and mankind. I am so grateful that President Trump was elected president, and to you, my honorable President, Mr. Donald Trump, thank you for granting me my freedom, because I would not be here if it had not been for you. My paperwork clearly states that I had 9 more years to go, and had it not been for your signature, I would still be in prison today. So thank you, sir, and I greatly appreciate you.
So dope.
You can
Chill.
Yeah, it's more relaxed on the state level than it is in the federal, because like I say, in this in the federal prisons, you got all the gangs, and it doesn't matter if you're a Crip or Blood. If you're not a Crip, if you're a Crip or Blood and you from another state, you
matter.
it doesn't matter. You still an enemy because you're not from their state. And another reason why it's so bad in federal prison is because, they it's so many lines.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that would suck. I wouldn't do well.
I mean, there's so many barriers and so many lines that can't be crossed
Yeah.
Like I say, but you know, with the entire East Coast, all of the white guys from every single state, you know, from, like I say, from Maine all the way down to the boot of Texas, you know, all of us had to band together because it was, you know, not even the whites from the West Coast or the Midwest wanted to even associate with other whites. And then I still find it hard to believe how individuals could do their time like that.
Always like this.
Yes.
No way. No
Always
way.
looking over
Well, I
your shoulder.
kind of see staying to yourself, because that way you stay out of trouble. You ain't involved in nothing but
And the sad part about
yourself.
the white inmates can't stay to themselves.
Really? They're kind of forced in.
Yeah. They
Were they outnumbered? So.
always.
Help you with.
I appreciate it. It's kind of therapeutic while I'm like thinking about these things and going. Your son, is he still?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That's awesome.
Yeah, he I say he was 8 months old when that happened, and they had already driven off. They was already gone, and all I could think about, that one of the reasons why I really was so hell bent on trying or finding this guy, I said, man, what if he did this? Because he said something to me when me and my son came across the parking lot. But he didn't wait to do what he did until after I put my son in the car and they was already gone, and I was headed back across the parking lot.